السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد, I want to welcome everyone to this evening's webinar. Barakallahu feekum, jazakumullah khair for coming. And Alhamdulillah, the last time we spoke was pre-Ramadan, but now we're actually in the month of Ramadan by Allah's permission. Ask Allah Azza wa Jalla that He's making this an amazing month for all of us in terms of our worship and our good deeds that we are performing, and that Allah Azza wa Jalla accepts it from us and allows us to continue and go from strength to strength for the remainder of this month. I hope that this evening's webinar, inshallah, won't be too long. We're going to try to keep these evening webinars. I know the time is late, and depending on where you are in the world, it may be even later than where I am. So we're going to try to keep them relatively concise and succinct. And then we'll give time, obviously, for questions at the end. And, question and answer session, as always, is if you need to leave, you can leave. The recording, inshallah, will always be, bi'idhnillah ta'ala, on YouTube as soon as the webinar finishes. So you can always catch up on that later. So today, inshallah, this evening, and likewise, as before, the Q&A panel is open. So any questions, inshallah, please don't hesitate to ask. The purpose of today's webinar, because we have another one tomorrow also, the purpose of today's webinar is in the run-up to this weekend's drop-in sessions, which is the first real test, if you like, or the real first time that you will be able to test how the method has worked, inshallah ta'ala. In the run-up to that, we thought that it would be a good idea to give you just some pointers on how to memorize. Now, you may already have your own system. You may already have a method that works for you. If that is the case, that is totally fine. And even, by the way, everything that we mentioned in this webinar, this is based on our research, our experience, many years, alhamdulillah ta'ala, in this field. But at the end of the day, as we've said before, and I'll make it very clear again, there are numerous methods that work and numerous methods that people use. So if you have another method or a teacher that tells you something, all of that is completely fine. We, as just to stress again, we wanted to bring something to our brothers and sisters that inshallah works for the vast majority of people, especially with those people that have a very hectic and busy lifestyle. And because of that, they find it difficult necessarily to follow methods that are very time intensive and also require a great deal of effort in terms of just memorizing every day and moving on and so on. So I hope that inshallah ta'ala over this past week, over these now 5 days of repetitions, including today, you've been able to, inshallah, grasp and see how the method works, number one. Number two, inshallah, I hope that it's started to come together now. So therefore, that inshallah ta'ala, you will get used to it. Be mindful, however, uh, not everything works immediately for everyone. That's just human nature. Not everyone takes to everything immediately. It's like when people first learn to drive or ride a bike or go swimming. Not everyone's going to take to it straight away, but you will, inshallah, get the method. Some people, it may just take them a couple of weeks. And that's why we chose the month of Ramadan, because it gives you a good 4 weeks. So I would say, even if you struggled somewhat this week, it may be because you're completely changing the way that you approach the memorization of the Quran. So just be slightly patient, inshallah ta'ala. Work with us, inshallah. I hope, just as last year's contingent found, by the end of the process, you will find, inshallah ta'ala, that this is a method that works for you, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So this evening's webinar is really focused on, now that you've done your repetitions, how to be ready, inshallah, to memorize or for those drop-in sessions tomorrow by having memorized whatever it was that your target ayahs were. So your target verses, that is, inshallah ta'ala, what we are looking at. So, as we said, there are different cogs to this, right, method, and inshallah, we will explain each and every single one of them as we go through the month of Ramadan. Tomorrow's one is actually on your revision, because now that inshallah you're going to memorize over the weekend, well, what you've memorized now also needs a level of retainment and retention. And so that's what we're going to discuss tomorrow. But for this evening, we're focusing on, as you can very clearly see, the target ayahs. Now that we've done these repetitions, approximately 100, you may have done slightly less, you may have done slightly more, but around that 100 mark over the 5 days, inshallah ta'ala, now you are, inshallah, ready to memorize those verses that you have been working at so hard. And this is step number 3 now, right? We're going to focus on this. Is, by the way, the same stuff that we told you last week, right? We had the 3-step process. Alhamdulillah, you done step 1, you chose your pathway, you did step 2 throughout the whole week. Now is step 3, where inshallah all of this comes together. So this is what we're going to work on, or what we're going to speak about this evening, inshallah ta'ala. We call our memorization days, just because the program started on a Monday, we call them day 6 and 7 of the week, which is the Saturday and Sunday. It works very well for us because of the way that the program, alhamdulillah, has been set up. But I mean, you could do this at any day could be your memorization day. If you started on a Wednesday, right? Day 6 and 7 will just move accordingly. So for us, it's obviously going to be this weekend and every weekend following. So Saturday and Sunday are your memorization days. We give 2 days, as I mentioned last week, because for some people they can memorize day 6, and some people just need that extra amount of repetitions, and therefore they're going to push it back to day 7. Or maybe day 6 isn't always going to be convenient for you because of other things. And again, this is another sign of the flexibility of this method, that if one day doesn't work, you can always do the next day. And so we give you this flexibility, inshallah ta'ala. So if you missed a day of repetitions, perhaps you don't feel that you're still quite there yet, you're too busy tomorrow, you can always come and read to us on Sunday. So what we're going to do on the weekend, tomorrow, inshallah, or Sunday, is before you come to the drop-in sessions, you will have memorized what it is that are your target ayahs, your target verses. So this is something which you're going to do yourself, but we'll go through a method, inshallah, that will help you. And we're going to break that down into two scenarios, two situations. And neither one of them, by the way, is better than the other. It's not that one is greater than the other. It's just different scenarios for different people and different situations. You may actually find yourself some weeks using one and other weeks using the other. And so it's not about, oh, the method worked for me better or the method didn't work for me so good because I used scenario 1 or 2. No, it's just that sometimes this approach works, sometimes that approach works. And again, it's a sign of the flexibility that this method has, that we have different ways of approaching the same issue. This one worked, alhamdulillah. That one didn't work, go to the other one that worked, alhamdulillah. And maybe some weeks you do this and some weeks you do that. However, the situation may be. And by the way, that is very natural. It is very common in hifth that you will have pages or passages or surahs that are very difficult, and passages and surahs that are very easy. That is very normal. And if you go to anyone that's memorized the Quran and you ask them, which surahs do you find the most difficult, or which surahs did you find the most difficult as you were memorizing, they can probably tell you their top 3, 4, 5. That's a very natural phenomenon. And so this is why we're giving you these two scenarios. Scenario number one is that tomorrow or Sunday, as you come to test yourself and as you read those target ayahs to yourself, you find that, alhamdulillah, they've come together. You pretty much know them off by heart. It may have the odd mistake here or there, but you can just focus on those 1 or 2 mistakes and take them out. And so generally from beginning to end, you have inshallah memorized those verses. So for example, if you were doing Surah An-Nas, Qul a'udhu bi Rabbin Nas, you're on that pathway. Or for example, that first half page of Surah Al-Qalam, Surah Noon, and you read it from the beginning to the end and you find, alhamdulillah, I pretty much know this. You can get someone to test you in your family if that's available. You could record yourself on your phone and just listen back to it and make sure. So you pretty much know that it's done. I would do this, or we recommend that you do this 5 times, go over it 5 times off by heart without looking. So from your memory 5 times, and then inshallah ta'ala it's done. And then you come and you read to a teacher, right? As you come to read to a teacher, alhamdulillah, as we said, it's a very private session. There's nothing to inshallah be afraid of or nervous about or anything. You just come and you read, you do your lines, inshallah ta'ala, and you are done. This is scenario number one. And if that works for you, then alhamdulillah, that is very good. If not, then we have scenario number two, which we call the 5-3 rule. The 5-3 rule. What's this scenario for? You tested yourself or you tried to read it off by heart and it's not quite there. Meaning, maybe you know some of the verses, but it doesn't flow. Or you don't know the exact flow of the verses. Or you read one verse by heart and you can't remember what was the next one. Or you remember 2 or 3 and then you get stuck. Or there's some verses that you just didn't memorize very well. What we have here is a method that inshallah I will explain to you the theory, and then we'll do a very quick practice session. Like I will just do a very quick practice run just to show you how it practically works. And then inshallah ta'ala, I think, it will be quite self-explanatory. And if there's any questions, we will deal with them. So what this method or what this 5-3 rule is that every single verse that you're memorizing, you read 5 times by looking, and then you read it from memory. So you read it 5 times by looking, and then you read it from memory. So for example, if you are reading Noon wal Qalam wa ma yasturun, you would read that verse 5 times by looking, then once off by heart. And because you've done the 100 repetitions so far this week, then inshallah ta'ala that single or that 5 repetitions should be enough to allow you to memorize that verse. You finish verse number 1, you go on to verse number 2, ayah number 2. You do the same thing. Read it 5 times by looking, and then read it once off by heart. Now, alhamdulillah, you've memorized verse 1 and verse 2. That's the 5 part of the 5-3 rule. The 3 part is what comes next, which is to join between the verses. It is a common mistake when people memorize that they memorize each verse individually. And this is why we tell you it's so important in repetitions that you read the whole thing through as one repetition, then start again and read the whole thing through again as another repetition, so that you have that flow. It is a common mistake that people just memorize each verse in isolation, but they can't join the dots. They have to be prompted with the beginning of every verse. And that's obviously not going to be a very good level of hifth and memorization. So the 3 rule, the 5-3 rule, the 3 part of that rule is that when it comes to joining between the verses, you read the 2 of them together by looking 3 times. So each one you did individually 5 times, but now that you're joining, you always do it 3 times. So noon wal qalami wa ma yasturun ma anta bi ni'mati rabbika bi majnun, and then start again. Do that 3 times. And inshallah I will go through this with a practical example on the screen so that you can see how it works, inshallah ta'ala. But then you do it 3 times and you read it off by heart as well. So do it 3 times by looking, once off by heart. Now you move on to verse number 3, 5 times by looking, once off by heart. Now you have to do verses 1 to 3, 3 times by looking. So this is the joining part. And it will be sometimes, it may seem sometimes a little tedious, repetitive in that way, even though I don't think that these are terms that we should use when it comes to memorizing the Quran, because it's all ibadah. You're not wasting any time. But I can understand at the same time, you're human, we're human, and sometimes you feel like, it's a lot and it's a lot of repetitions, and I'm trying to do half a page, and that's like, it's going to take me some time. Personally, I don't think that this whole method from beginning to end, if you're memorizing around half a page, should take you more than 20 minutes. If you have done everything so far, inshallah, the way that we've asked you to do, I don't think this is a very time-intensive program or time-intensive process. However, it may still take you 20 minutes to 30 minutes. You can decrease these repetitions if you find that some verses, for example, and some you don't know. So the ones you can decrease if you like. The joining, though, is very important. If you put in the time now, I often say, it will save you the headache later. The people that don't put in the time and effort now and try to take the quick way, you will often find are the same people that later on struggle with that which they memorized. And then they're like, the revision's not very good. The retention's not very strong. I struggle with something I just memorized. And that is because you still need to embed it, right? And this is why we do, by the way, tomorrow, the whole thing on new revision is very important, because that whole thing is also something which is greatly neglected by people after they've memorized what they're memorizing of the Quran. So if it's something which you find, okay, I can cut down, by all means, you can do so. Again, this is why we say it's a flexible method. You can always tweak these numbers. You can do 4-2 instead of 5-3 if that works for you. You can do 3-1 really if you want to, even though I think that you should do it more than once in terms of the 3 rule. Shouldn't be less than 2 in my view. I think 3 is a good number anyway. But anyway, I think you get the idea. Each verse you look at 5 times and then you memorize. To join between the verses, you read them 3 times by looking, and then you read them once off by heart. And inshallah, in that way, that's if it needs that amount of extra attention and care, then inshallah ta'ala, you will find that you will have memorized likewise from beginning to end. Once you've finished, go over it 2 or 3 times from beginning to end, just like you did. And then inshallah ta'ala, you are also ready to come and to read. So let me just give you an example of this. We're just going to take Surah Al-Qalam because some people are doing Surah Al-Qalam. And anyway, the theory works obviously for anything. So we'll just take this as a practice session. So if you were doing Surah Al-Qalam verse number 1, you're going to read that 5 times. So Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Noon wal qalami wa ma yasturun. 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 That's 5 repetitions. Then now I'm not going to look and I'm going to read it off by heart. Noon wal qalami wa ma yasturun. Alhamdulillah. Verse 1 is done. Go on to verse number 2. ما أنت بنعمة ربك بمجنون 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 ما أنت بنعمة ربك بمجنون. That's my 5 repetitions. Now once off by heart. ما أنت بنعمة ربك بمجنون. Now verse 1 and 2 are done. Now I'm going to read them both by looking 3 times to join and connect them. نون والقلم وما يسطرون ما أنت بنعمة ربك بمجنون نون والقلم وما يسطرون ما أنت بنعمة ربك بمجنون نون والقلم وما يسطرون ما أنت بنعمة ربك بمجنون. That's my 3 repetitions. And now off by heart. نون والقلم وما يسطرون ما أنت بنعمة ربك بمجنون. And then you will do the same for verse 3. But after you've done verse 3 5 times and once off by heart, now you're joining verse 1 to 3. So نون والقلم وما يسطرون ما أنت بنعمة ربك بمجنون وإن لك لأجرا غير ممنون. You will read all that 3 times by looking, then once off by heart, and then go on to verse number 4. And in this way, you work your way down until you get to verse number 16, the end of the page. So this is the method for scenario 2. You may, well, as we said in scenario 1, you may just come to this and you may already know it. So you may just read, and maybe like, around verse 12, 13, maybe there's like a word here, or, you forgot it, and you just focus on that word and you read it 2 or 3 times, and inshallah ta'ala, you'll take out that 1 or 2 mistakes. But if you're struggling, you're getting like 5, 6 mistakes, 4, 5 mistakes, and you're not comfortable with it, then I would recommend this particular method. And like I said, even within that method, you may find, for example, the first 5 verses you kind of know anyway. So you don't need to go through it for those 5 verses if you know them from beginning to end. Start from verse 6, start from verse 7. Take it as and where you need it, so that you can, inshallah ta'ala, complete the memorization of the target ayahs that you have chosen for yourself. That is as easy, inshallah ta'ala, as it is. And as I said, it's going to be just a quick session, just so that we can give you some guidance and some information regarding how to memorize. The other thing that inshallah is very important, therefore, is the logistics of how tomorrow and Sunday will work. And even, by the way, Monday and Tuesday. So Saturday and Sunday are our drop-in sessions for memorization checks. Monday, Tuesday are tajweed checks, where you read by looking, just to make sure that your next round of target verses, you can read correctly, or if there's something you're not sure of, or there's some pronunciation that you're not too confident with, inshallah, we can give you some guidance. But Saturday and Sunday are the main sessions, right? These are the important ones. Monday, Tuesday are optional. You can come, alhamdulillah. You don't want to come, no problem. You're confident, you have other things, other ways of doing it, no problem. Saturday and Sunday is to have a level of accountability. And that's very important, because we all know that if we don't have a level of accountability, then we're going to sometimes, just become a bit lazy, or we're just going to like put things off. We're going to procrastinate. So this gives you that level of accountability. Now, obviously, there's only so much we can do in holding you to account. And so really the onus is upon you to take this opportunity. I would strongly recommend that you do so. And also, we sent out a poll earlier on the Telegram. For those of you on the Telegram, if you could please just respond to that poll, that would be greatly helpful, just so that we can know from the different time slots that we have how much, inshallah, demand there is for each one. The logistics of how the session will work, you've already been given all of the links for the sessions, which are the drop-in sessions. You click on that link or put in the meeting ID and passcode on Zoom. And then what you will do is you will be placed into an automatic waiting room. Just like before you enter this webinar, you were placed into a waiting room. There, the teachers can see you. The admin people that we have on each of these drop-in sessions know that you are there. So don't worry. You don't have to type in. You don't have to message Telegram. You don't have to. I know sometimes you may think it's been 10 minutes. Maybe they don't know I'm here. But we know your names are there, and they come in first come, first serve basis. So we know in the order that you also came in. However, we have, as we said, hundreds of students, alhamdulillah. So we're all going to have to exercise a little bit of patience. So please just give us some time. We will work through everyone. Alhamdulillah, I don't think last year we missed out anyone. We turned anyone away, even if the sessions sometimes were over time. We, alhamdulillah, our teachers just waited a slightly longer, and they gave students that time. So just be patient with us, inshallah. Once you come in, it is also important to note that we have different Zoom links, different Zoom accounts for brothers and sisters. So we've actually separated the accounts, so inshallah there can't be any mix-up. Having said that, though, last year people still got confused. We had sometimes the odd sister coming into the brothers, the odd brother going to the sisters. Just please double check. It's been very clearly demarcated. We have topics within Telegram that clearly say Zoom sessions brothers, Zoom sessions sisters. Please make sure that you use the right link. This is so that, inshallah, everyone can be comfortable. So once you've entered into that waiting room, you will see, inshallah ta'ala, that I don't know if this is on the next slide. Let me just check. Yeah, so you will be into the waiting room. And then once the teacher is ready, you will be brought into the main Zoom session. Now, the way the main Zoom session works is that we have created breakout rooms. So we have multiple teachers per session. It's not just one teacher, so we can get through everyone. You may have 3 or 4 teachers on the call, and therefore each one of them is in a breakout room. So you may come into the main Zoom session and you don't see anyone. That's because this teacher now is going to, once you've entered into the Zoom session, is going to give you an invite to their particular breakout room. We did this because some or many students aren't very comfortable reading in front of others, even if they don't know who they are, even though it's online. So we want to give people a private, inshallah ta'ala, breakout room, just them and the teacher, so they're comfortable. So when you come into that main session, you will see a message. Please don't just come in and just like, wait for someone to speak and you're just like busy, distracted on your phone or something else. Look for the pop-up message that will come that will give you an invite to the breakout room. It will say join breakout room. So when you're given that invite, we have maybe breakout room 1, 2, 3, whichever number it is, and you're given that message, then inshallah you go into it. You click join, you go into that breakout room. Once you're there, you will be with the teacher. You tell the teacher what it is that you're reading. Now you can read your memorization. You can read your revision if you're also on the Go Revise program. If you're on both of those programs, you can do one and then come back and do the other one later on or the next day. No problem, inshallah ta'ala. But just tell the teacher what it is that you're doing, and then you can read. And once you finish reading, inshallah ta'ala, then bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, you can just leave. And when you leave, please make sure that you leave the meeting and don't just exit the breakout room, because you're given different options in Zoom. So what you want to do is leave the meeting. Otherwise, it will just keep you in the main session. You'll just be stuck there in limbo. And so it will be better and easier for everyone if you just leave the meeting room, and inshallah ta'ala, then you are done. So those are the logistics for tomorrow and Sunday, inshallah. I hope that is very clear. And I think, once you do it once or twice, it will become, inshallah, self-evident anyway. One of the other things that we tried last year, and inshallah we may use again this year if we need to, is using a traffic light system on Telegram. So if you're on the Telegram group in the Zoom session for brothers and sisters, if it's like a very quiet session, you may see, for example, the green light. That means it's like very quiet. In which case, if you were thinking, should I go now, should I go later, and you're ready, you can just join the call, inshallah, and it'll be relatively quick. If you see the red light, that means that it's a very busy session. So maybe if you were thinking of joining that session, you choose a later session. So we may use that if there is a need. If there's no need, then we won't use them at all. But just so that inshallah everyone is on the same page, you're thinking, why are there random traffic lights appearing all of a sudden? That is the reason why. It is just to give you an indication when we need it. We have, alhamdulillah, admin people on each call as well that can help manage this. And so, if they think that someone needs to, or there's more scope in one session on, then inshallah ta'ala, we will make that judgment as and when. So we've tried to keep this very flexible in the sense that we're not telling people you have to come at this time or you can only come at that time. We're trying to give people, these are drop-in sessions. We've given like 3, 4 sessions a day, Saturday, Sunday, so that you can choose, inshallah, the time that is convenient to you. And we've also tried to space them out somewhat from morning to evening. I know they're not like maybe the biggest range of times, but to the best of our ability, so that inshallah it can suit most time zones, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So inshallah, I hope. And these are the sessions. As you can see very clearly, for Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday are obviously tajweed check. So whichever of these sessions, this is for the sisters, and then we have obviously a similar one for the brothers, right? And because why are the brother sessions less? Simply because we have many more sisters, probably like double the amount of sisters than brothers, and so therefore, like, there's more of a need for them to have those extra 2 sessions as opposed to the brothers. So we ask Allah Azza wa Jalla that He grants you all success. And I hope that inshallah ta'ala that was helpful to you, bi'idhnillah. And if there's any questions, inshallah ta'ala, I will take them. By the way, if someone wants to speak and they want to raise their hands, you are also welcome to do so. But I will take, inshallah, the couple of questions that I can see in the Q&A tab. If you do have questions, rather than putting them in the chat, please, if you can if you can put them into the Q&A, that would be helpful. And in the chat, you can actually tell us how you got on with your repetitions. So if you found it being, very good, or if there was something you struggled with, by all means, inshallah, we'd love to hear your feedback. So the first question is, if target ayah is longer than one line, do we repeat line by line or split it when there's valid box? No, read the whole ayah from beginning to end. So you want to keep the verse together. If you split it in lines, then it's going to be something which will cause you problems later. Read the verse from beginning to end. And so always, to the best of your ability, keep the verse, together. There's only one or two exceptions in the Quran where that wouldn't work. Like, for example, the longest verse of the Quran, which is a full page, that's slightly different. But other than that, it is something which I would say you do one verse at a time. Um, yeah, and I think that is the same question that's been repeated twice. So yes, you would do the whole verse. Okay. Any other questions? If you don't feel ready, is it best to still join the drop-in session as it's a new method? So I would say if by Sunday you're still not feeling completely ready, I would say come and read. If you've done these methods that we just explained now, come and read to the teacher. I think you will be, inshallah, pleasantly surprised. Inshallah ta'ala. Sometimes you think that you're not ready, but actually when you come, it just comes off. Right? It just like happens, and you surprise yourself. So I would still say yes, you come to inshallah ta'ala, the drop-in session. The verse is about 6 lines long, so should I repeat it and join using the 5-3 method? Yes, I would do so. So if you've done the repetitions now 100 times, you should be quite familiar with that verse anyway. And so just to do it, and if there's like certain mistakes in there, you can just pinpoint those mistakes and then focus on them. But I would use the same methodology that we just spoke about. Um, the next question is, if I have chosen a short surah like Surah Tariq and for some reason or other I just can't get it all memorized, or I restart the method from Monday? So one of the things that we said to people, for those people that were on pathway 3, is that you get to choose the surah and the number of lines. It is quite important that you do what's manageable and then work up steadily. So some people think I will do the whole of Surah Tariq and they've never memorized that much before in their life. So if you only ever memorize 3 to 4 verses at a time, to think that you can double or triple that isn't necessarily going to work. So this is what I would say, like, be very, very realistic at the beginning, because it's a new method also. Once you're used to the method, and it works for you, then you can start scaling up slowly and surely. But at the moment, that's what I would say. So if you're struggling, if you manage to do half, then come and read the half and leave the other half for next week. It just means that this is probably your natural level of memorization now. And remember, memory is like a muscle. So over time, it's going to improve. You're going to be able to do more. Your capacity will increase, but it takes time, especially if you haven't memorized for a while and it's been something that you've left for a while. I feel as though it worked really well this week. This is the next question. I'm hoping that it isn't just the beginner's phase and we'll keep on working for longer portions, inshallah. Yes, inshallah, it will. But remember, everything will have its challenges. Even the best methods, you will have that week that's just going to be difficult. It's just going to be a struggle. That's just life. And so that doesn't mean that the method isn't working. You're just having one of those weeks. So yes, inshallah, it will work. And may Allah Azza wa Jal grant you all success. How many weeks would you say it'll take to get used to this new method, inshallah? So I think by the end of Ramadan, inshallah, by the 4 or 5 weeks, you'll be very used to it. So give it, inshallah, Ramadan. That's why we chose this program to be in Ramadan. It works very well with Ramadan anyway. And so I think by the end, inshallah, 4 or 5 weeks, I think that would be, inshallah ta'ala, something which will give you a very good idea, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. Okay. And also, by the way, like one of the benefits of this is it gives you time sometimes just to think of the verses. If you want to read the translation once in the week or twice in the week, it gives you, and inshallah, we will discuss some of these, inshallah, as we go through Ramadan. We have some special sessions where we can actually speak about some of these points, inshallah, in more detail, so that you can actually see some of the other benefits that you will gain from this method, bi'idhnillah. Okay, inshallah, that's very good. Alhamdulillah, we're done in about half an hour, which is excellent. So inshallah, I hope that you will, inshallah, have an amazing weekend. Read, memorize your verses, come and see us in the drop-ins, inshallah ta'ala. And then also, tomorrow's webinar is very important. Please, the new revision is a very important part of the method, which people often neglect. So please make sure that you come to that as well. I'll take one final question. Can I use this method for my children? Yes. This is a very good method for children also. And children, because their memories are much stronger than adults and they're like sponges that soak in information, if you actually use it with them and get them used to it, inshallah, I think it will be very successful for them also. And it is something which we have trialed with children on a number of occasions and it has worked, alhamdulillah. Okay, Jazakumullah khairan. Barakallahu feekum. Inshallah, we will see you all tomorrow. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.